Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. In today's episode, we cover Poland-UK defence talks, the EU's Rearmament Fund, and a possible snap election in Canada. But first, Israel launches a new ground operation in Gaza. After bombarding Gaza with airstrikes and ending the short-lived ceasefire deal, the Israeli military has launched a renewed ground operation in the Gaza Strip. The widespread airstrikes, beginning on Tuesday, killed more than 400 people in Gaza, making it one of the deadliest days since the war began 17 months ago. The new ground operation has seen the Israeli military issue evacuation orders and retake parts of Gaza that it had previously withdrawn from, like the so-called Netzarim corridor, which effectively splits Gaza in two between north and south. Evacuation orders covering large parts of the Gaza Strip's border areas indicate that the military's, quote, targeted ground activities could be followed by a larger ground operation. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said the Air Force attack against Hamas terrorists was only the first step, threatening total destruction and devastation if all the Israeli hostages are not released and Hamas is not eliminated from Gaza. The first phase of the multi-phase ceasefire deal agreed to in January came to an end in early March, and under the agreed terms, it was meant to transition into a second phase, during which negotiations would aim to secure a long-term ceasefire, a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and the return of the remaining hostages taken by Hamas on October 7, 2023. However, Israel, backed by the United States, made new demands of Hamas, instead seeking a temporary extension of the first phase and the return of all remaining 59 hostages, of which some 24 are still believed to be alive. Hamas rejected this, but offered to release a living American hostage and 4 bodies to extend the ceasefire. Seeking to pressure Hamas, Israel imposed a siege on the Gaza Strip, blocking food, fuel, and medicine supplies, before eventually relaunching its military operation this week. The United Nations said that 2 people, including 1 UN staff member, were killed and 5 UN workers were seriously injured on Wednesday, when an explosive ordnance was dropped or fired at the building. The Gazan Health Ministry accused Israel of carrying out the strike, an allegation that Israel denied. The UN's Project Services head said everyone knew who was working inside the premises. It was UN personnel, adding, "This was not an accident, this was an incident." You're listening to TLDR's Daily Briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released videos on the Canadian Liberal poll surge, Romania's ongoing political crisis, and the UK government welfare plans. You can find those videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. And just as a heads up, there won't be a daily briefing episode tomorrow on Friday the 21st of March, but we'll be back as normal from Monday. Poland is discussing ways to cooperate on defence with the UK and other European nations, as the EU seeks to reduce its military dependence on the US. At a meeting in London on Wednesday, Poland's Finance Minister Andrzej Domanski met with UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves to discuss new ways of funding defence spending. Domanski also said that Poland has invited Reeves for further discussions in Warsaw next month, alongside Jens Stoltenberg, Norway's finance minister and a former NATO Secretary General. Speaking to the Financial Times, Domanski said, "I have a very strong feeling that the Polish and UK thinking about defence is very similar." He said that Poland and the UK share the view that our taxpayers' money must be spent efficiently, and that this could be done through new tools for spending money more wisely. In other defence news, the EU has announced that its planned €150 billion defence fund will only be open to EU defence companies and third countries that have signed defence agreements with the bloc, and not to arms companies from the UK, US, or Turkey. According to a European Commission proposal put forward on Wednesday, the planned fund, for countries to spend on weapons, will also exclude any advanced weapons systems upon which a third country has design authority, meaning restrictions on its construction or the use of particular components, or control over its eventual use. The proposal also specifies that at least 65% of the cost must be spent in the EU, Norway, and Ukraine, while the remainder can be spent on non-EU countries that have signed a defence pact. While not entirely surprising in itself, the proposal is a win for French President Emmanuel Macron and incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who have pushed the idea of European strategic autonomy and the need for Europe to have weapons without foreign restrictions. Finally, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to announce a snap election on Sunday, likely for the 28th of April, according to several Canadian media sources. It comes amid surging support for Canada's Liberal Party, driven by concerns over US President Donald Trump's recent comments on annexing Canada, and the fact that the Liberals have pushed back hard, warning Trump that they would also impose their own tariffs if Trump went ahead with his. As things stand, polls by Angus Reid, Ledger, and Ipsos, which all showed the Conservatives in the lead for months, now show the Liberals in front. Carney, who took over as Liberal Party leader from Justin Trudeau in March, also enjoys an approval rating of plus 15, putting him in a strong position to win. That's all for today. We'll be back with you next week, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, you can check out the latest episode of our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard, where we discuss which heads of government are doing well and who's doing badly every week. You can find the link to the show in the podcast description. This was a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Rory Taylor and Georgina Findlay, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again on Monday.